Sarah is a single mother who works hard to provide for her daughters, Nala and Maha. But Nala and Maha's needs go beyond just basic needs. Nala and Maha need laptops so they can keep up with learning with their peers at school so they do not fall behind. Sarah needs a new job to be able to afford these devices for Nala and Maha, but most of the job applications require Sarah to apply online, and Sarah lacks the skills to do so. Sarah even has to go to her family and friends to access basic government services that are online. What should Sarah do now? Hi, I'm Joshua Batero, and I'm going to be presenting on bridging the digital divide using our case study, the Droflas community. So first of all, we're going to be looking at some trends. So this data on the screen, this is gotten from statista.com, and these statistics focus on low digital intensity businesses and why they don't use more of technology. And this actually involved 1,009 respondents. I'm going to be pointing out a few, which include poor broadband, which makes up about 5% of the respondents, shortage of digital skills, which makes up about 11% of the respondents, too expensive to implement, which makes up a whopping 32%, which is a high number in my opinion of the respondents. And then the highest is actually unlikely to make a significant difference, which makes up 40%. And this points to the fact that if the users see these technologies as too expensive to implement, they will most likely want to see a very huge difference or a very huge impact in their businesses. So what is digital divide? Digital divide can be simply seen as the contrast between people who fully benefit from digital inclusion and people who do not benefit. There are also people who have access to these digital devices and could actually get the skills to use these devices or to use digital technology, but for some reason they do not use it because of things like privacy concerns, content, especially in the age of social media where there's a lot of news flying around, how Wi-Fi can be bad, how 5G network was the cause of the COVID-19 pandemic, and because of these things, a lot of people might actually have access or be able to afford these devices and not want to use them. This is what we classify as attitudinal barriers, which is one of the barriers that actually cause the digital divide. So we're going to be moving on to our case study, the Droflas community, and on the screen here is the rich picture that illustrates what is going on in the Droflas community. From the rich picture, we can see the Droflas community, the people in the Droflas community, and we can see a line that divides them. From the illustration, we can see the people who are experiencing or are the receiving end of the digital divide. And from these people, we can see the children who are being affected, the children who come from these families who can't keep up with their peers at school because they do not have access to the laptops and devices, as opposed to their peers who have access to these devices because their local schools actually make use of digital technology to teach the kids. So they need to have access to these devices at home so that they can actually keep learning at home, not only when they're in school. And from the people experiencing the digital divide, we can also see that Sarah and her children, Nala and Maha, actually come from these people, and Nala and Maha are actually part of these kids or these children who actually need these devices so that they can keep up with their peers at school. Although Sarah works hard, Sarah earns a low income, and because she earns a low income, she can't actually get these devices for her children. And to be able to earn higher, she needs to get a new job. But most of these jobs actually require her to apply online. She lacks the digital skills to do so. And because she lacks the digital skills to do so, she can't actually apply online, which makes her unable to get a job, and which makes her to keep earning low income because she has to keep doing the jobs that give her low income. We can also see that Sarah actually needs help to access some basic government services, and to do this, she actually has to go and meet some of her family and friends, and Sarah is actually concerned that she's not being a bother or she's not bothering them, always going to meet them to access the services. And you can also see at the top that the Droflas City Council has actually tried to bring up innovations to bridge this digital gap, but For some reason, it has had a limited reach. So there are some people that still experience the digital divide despite the efforts from the city council to bridge this divide. From both analyses, we can clearly see the common themes. The main participants involved include community members, the Droflas City Council, schools, and telecommunication companies. The fundamental viewpoint emphasizes the importance of easily reaching essential services, reliable jobs, and acknowledging the changing digital environment. So the summary of the problem can be broken down into three, which has to do with economic disparities, the digital literacy gap, and educational barriers, and then the impacts from each of these. For economic disparities, limited access to digital devices because they can't afford these devices, so they have limited access to them. Then unable to afford unlimited internet connection or limited and reliable internet connection, as seen with a clear example of Sarah and her kids, Nala and Maha. So for digital literacy gap, dependency of family members, family and friends to access basic government services, and also affects job opportunity because most of the job opportunities will require digital skills or require the community members to fill online forms. And for people who lack the skills, they won't be able to do this, and it actually in turn affects their job prospects because if they can't apply for these jobs, they can't even be shortlisted for the interviews, and then they can't go through the interview stages, and they won't be able to actually get new good jobs to be able to afford more of their needs or afford some of these digital devices. And then for the educational barriers or the educational differences, this can also affect the children because they will fall behind their peers in learning because they don't have ready access to these devices in their homes as compared to their peers who actually have access to these devices. They will fall behind them, which is in turn going to affect their future job prospects and future opportunities. So how do we intend to bridge this digital divide? So the first step is to sensitize the community on the importance of digital literacy. The second solution is to partner with the Droflas City Council and telecommunication companies to provide affordable and unlimited internet access for anybody who's going to come and use the hub and who's going to come and learn in the hub, and affordable and subsidized internet connection in people's homes. And then we're also going to provide basic digital literacy training because it's not only about having access to these devices. The training on how to use these devices and providing of basic training on digital literacy skills is important. And we're also going to have device loan and distribution programs. This is for people who cannot afford these devices like laptops up until the time that they can actually afford these devices. So this involves the action plan. We're going to pitch collaboration and securing of funding, preparing of the training materials, sensitization program and events, set up a physical hub in the community, begin with the training programs, set up laptop loan program, feedback, monitoring and evaluation. So moving on to continuous learning and adaptation. This is actually an extension of our feedback, monitoring and evaluation stage. So this is a very important stage, and this is actually the stage where we're going to implement our change management plan. It actually generally involves working with stakeholders. So how do we manage this change? We're going to actually collaborate with community leaders to help us spread the word. We're going to set goals. So the next step is to monitor and address concerns. And we're going to be celebrating successes, being able to get people jobs, being able to provide advanced training, advanced digital literacy training that actually help people to get jobs. Learn and improve. Going to implement this in the real world is a different ball game. Always wanting to hear back from the community members, always wanting to hear back from people to make sure we're doing things the best way we can to make sure that our solution meets the needs of everyone that is involved. So I'm going to be closing with this quote from Charles Darwin, and he says, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." Thank you for listening.